Hello and welcome back to SpriteGuard Plays HyperRogue. I got some good suggestions on the last video, and so we are going to start out by heading into Hell and seeing if we can get the demon daisies that we need to start a Yendor Quest. Then we're going to need to go into the graveyard, we have plenty of kills for that. And see if we can do a Yendor Quest. That's something we haven't done in quite a long time. It'll probably take us a couple of episodes because we're going to have to grind up a lot of dead orbs in order to do that. And I particularly kind of want to try the challenge of doing a Yendor Quest in Hell. That's a very difficult challenge that apparently is technically always possible. And so it'll be, really interesting to see, if we can actually achieve this, this thing that is always supposed to be possible. But for instance, you look at this lake of sulfur, and you can kind of see that, going around it is not going to be trivial, and you don't really know when is it going to end. And then when it does end here, you have to then find your way around the other side of it. It's very similar to Trollheim. It's very similar to the Princess Quest. I believe it inspired the Princess Quest. And there we are. So, if we were on a Yendor Quest, we would only be, like 5 steps further along after all that we did there. So now we have to find our way to a crossroads first of all. There we go. And then one person did actually recommend the Land of Power, which is a really good idea. It's a really cool area to explore, but I think maybe a little ways down the line. The Zebra was also recommended, which is a great way to end a run. Because runs usually end there. And so, once we get the Orb of Yendor, the game doesn't end. And that's actually one of the many things that I love about it. One of the things that makes this game really stand out as a roguelike, that you don't end when you complete the ultimate objective. And so, let's see, I have not been paying enough attention, but here's a graveyard right here. I would like to get a little bit deep before I use this Orb of Flash, because this is a technique that I really like employing in the graveyard, where you create this empty space with the Orb of Flash, and then you can use it to find your way back to the crossroads from very far away. That gives you a huge amount of area to explore. And we're going to try and explore it somewhat systematically by coming down around here and just coming out so that we can see, we can see quite a lot. And then I'm going to actually use Alt to see, okay, it looks like there is over this way a treasure for us. And then, let's see, we can still see there, in the very far corner, that there is one of the gravestones that we destroyed. So we can look from here and see, are there any treasures for us not over here? So we can just rotate around it a bit, make sure it doesn't go off screen, though our shadow there is going to give us a little bit of help. So, we can go around it a bit. That's really further off screen. I mean, it is still on screen, but it's so hard to pick out from here that we're a little bit further than might be wise. But as we continue to go around, we can wait here for a shadow to show us the way. And it looks like a demon from hell is actually after us now. So, let's see, we should be able... There it is. So there's our blasting area. So now we can kind of go drift out a little ways. And so the amount of space, even within 7 steps of our blasting area, is going to have a lot of stuff in it. But I don't know if it's going to have enough stuff. And so we may have to kind of continue on along the edge of the crossroads, if that is the case, because, you know, we're seeing these great big empty areas, and the only totems we're seeing are requiring us to go out of sight of the blasting area, which is not what we want to do. There's one that we can get. We're going to have to just barely go out of sight, but we can retrace our steps fairly easily. And so, you know, we're just going to keep winding our way around. And we can see, you know, we can head back to the edge of the blasting area and see, okay, so there's a couple over here that we can get to pretty easily. And you know, there's not like, you know, there's a fair bit of stuff, but there's not going to be, you know, a staggering amount of stuff, because the increase is exponential. It's so, you know, it's difficult to think about exponential growth. It's really difficult to think about because it plays by its own rules. And, you know, one thing that you can think about is that the derivative of the exponential function is itself exponential. And so that means that, you know, not only does the amount of space increase very rapidly, but the amount by which it increases is itself exponential. And so, oh dear. Okay, there it is. I was afraid I'd lost sight of the blasting zone. But no, we're actually still relatively close. Though, oh, there's the crossroads. So this is a nice place where we can see things that are not visible from the crossroads and still be able to find our way back to them. There we go, and then we can make our way back here. And just kind of keep orbiting around the edge of this area. And, you know, we are finding a lot of stuff. And actually, this is going to be the last totem that we need. So that was really kind of fun and a little bit educational, seeing, you know, just after I thought that, oh, there's not really going to be enough space to find everything we need, that in fact we did find everything we need. So, yeah, so the amount of space that you can get to in, you know, n+1 steps versus in n steps increases at roughly the same rate that the amount of... It's so difficult to think about. Is that the amount of increase is the same as the amount of stuff. And you know, I could maybe, you know, maybe if I was a little bit better at math, I could explain it better. But now oh, of course, we've been retracing our steps. I was thinking, where did this dead rock troll come from? Because usually you can assume that you've never been somewhere before, unless you retrace your steps. You can be quite certain that you have never been to wherever it is that you are. Just because of, again, that exponential growth that, you know, after we've taken, I think, 60 steps, the range of places that we might be in is larger than the surface of the Earth. And so, you know, that's another way of kind of thinking about just how big this world is. So we are on the lookout primarily for dead orbs. And we can spawn a lot of new ground this way. But, you know, dropping into the orb of safety doesn't add that much exposure compared to just wandering. But, you know, it's a nice way to kind of reset things, give you a world that you know you've never explored. Even though you can be so confident that you've never explored whatever part of the world you happen to be in, it adds that little bit of sense of certainty. It's one of those intuition things that it's like your intuition so can't handle what's actually going on, or at least mine can't, that, you know, I can feel like I'm being productive doing some very silly things. And we have a dragon after us. So we may have to actually... Well, we can move quite a bit faster than it. But... it's a little bit tempting to try and fight it. I mean, we have so much other stuff after us that it's a little bit... You know, it's going to be very difficult for us to fight it. And, of course, it's going to be throwing fire at us. And, you know, the Crossroads is not a good place for fighting dragons, because there is quite a bit of restriction. You know, it feels very unrestricted most of the time. I wonder how Orb of the Stone interacts with dragons. That's something that would be kind of interesting to find out, though I don't know if we can kill this guy in only 48 turns. We can try, for sure. But, you know, he's not going to make it easy for us. He's a smaller dragon. But he breathes fire. And, he's got lots of stuff kind of helping him out. And we can knock him back like that, but... Unless we can get to that last segment, we're going to have a lot of trouble. So let's see if we can lure him out here. Looks like we're going to run out of the stone power. So, you know, maybe we can lead him to an Orb of Stone. Because the orbs, when we have the Orb of Speed, orbs drain just as quickly. And so, they actually, you know, in terms of like, when you're trying to battle something, they drain twice as quickly because the thing that you're battling is going to be moving at half speed. So we want, the segment that we actually want to attack us, I'm having a little bit of difficulty getting the dragon to expose it. And, you know, I don't want to trap myself. Alright, there we go. So there's the dragon killed. No Orb of Stone active. Oh well. And they don't drop treasure when they're not in their homeland. That was a source of confusion earlier, but... That is the way that they're intended to work, and I believe also the way that sandworms work. And so if in some way we manage, you know, maybe with... Oh, we don't have the Ivory Tower Orb, so we can't do that. We don't have the Orb of the Dragon unlocked. We don't even have Relia unlocked. So killing this sandworm would actually be pretty difficult. We could use an Orb of Shielding, possibly, but, you know, we don't have any simple way of killing it. And so probably the best thing is to leave it alone, and we're just going to continue looking for dead orbs. Now, when we turn on the high contrast mode, one of the things that I really like about the high contrast mode is that both dead orbs and orbs of Yendor have very similar, if not the same, highlight color. Because they're both necessary to win the game. There are ways of winning the game without dead orbs, but it's extraordinarily difficult, and so, you know, it's a pretty good approximation to simply say that dead orbs are required to win the game, or to finish the Yendor Quest. It feels less and less as the game gets bigger and bigger. It feels like less and less of a victory, though it is considered a win. So these rock snakes, again, not really. So they don't leave treasures no matter what you do. So, you know, we don't have a good way of fighting it. But we also don't really have any reason to fight it. I wouldn't even really be demonstrating anything. I don't know if they leave corpses behind. That would be something to experiment with, but again, don't really have a good way of doing that. So we're just going to kind of stick to the course, stick to gathering up dead orbs until we have, you know, I think 20 is the minimum necessary for the strategy that I use. I like to have 30 just for kind of the safety and kind of just the simplicity of it. So there we go. We got out of the way of that ivy in, again, the simplest and safest way. We are going to be looking for an orb of safety to wrap this up relatively soon. Actually, for going after the Orb of Yendor, I didn't think of this, but for going after the Orb of Yendor in Hell, it's actually, we probably want a lot more. Because the Lakes of Sulphur, you know, you don't strictly need to place dead orbs along the edge of a Lake of Sulphur, but it helps quite a bit. And so we do want to do that. And so I'm probably not going to wrap it up until we found a fairly substantial number of dead orbs. And then probably we will go for more of them once we start the next episode. I don't really know exactly how I'm going to structure things. You know, as I talked about in the last episode, everything I do here is mostly improv. And, oh my goodness, I killed a Rose Lord. I did not even realize that that's what I was going after. So that would have been really unwise if I had gone after something that I couldn't kill at all. I know that the Handsome Gardeners don't leave the garden, but I don't really know what the rules are about killing Rose Lords and Rose Ladies. And just in general about unkillable creatures. Like some unkillable creatures, like the Rock Snake, will come into the crossroads very happily. Now, I don't want to get these Orbs of Life. I think they would be more trouble than they are worth. So we're just going to be, you know, hunting down more and more dead orbs. And just kind of, it's, you know, it's this game's version of grinding, and it's a pleasant sort of grinding. It's a little bit annoying, as grinding always is. But, you know, one of the things that I often talk about in game design is that you need, you know, you can't just have a game be relentlessly hard all the time. I mean, you can, but it's more pleasant if your game kind of has a rhythm to it. You know, the game can be relentlessly hard, but even within that, like, Spelunky is a great example of a game that is just phenomenally hard, but still has easier segments in it. And so, you know, in terms of this game, you know, there's a lot in this game that is very difficult, but there's a lot that is very easy. And so you have that rhythm of, you have breathers, you have easier segments and harder segments. And that gives the game a kind of rhythm that it would not have otherwise. So we're going to drop into this Orb of Safety, and wrap it up there. In the next episode, we're going to probably grab a few more orbs, dead orbs, in anticipation of getting ready for the Yendor Quest in Hell, and then we're going to probably start it up relatively quickly. So until then, thank you very much for watching, and have a great rest of your day.